Yeah, anyway, well, that's a positive note to start, I guess.
Yeah.
No, on a good note, we hosted a Iron Chef. So we had some friends over and we had a secret ingredient, tarragon, and
Oh,
we
fun.
cooked for some people. It was nice. It was a
Oh,
nice.
that's fun. What was the winning dish, or did
Oh, the winning, it was a cook, but what is it? We did a charity and the event the money we raised for Leukemia Foundation.
okay.
Yes, that's so yeah, it was quite nice. We did it over the weekend in the house.
Oh,
It was
that's
fun.
good. Yeah, we
Okay.
had
Tell me.
Halloween stuff for the
Oh
kids.
yeah, how was that? What did you dress up?
We had I mean, it's the kids are at this age where it's a week of Halloween. So we have a bunch of costumes.
Yeah.
I think the challenge every year is dealing with the weather, and so this year, historically, it's like hot, and then the week of Halloween, a cold front comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you planned is insufficient for the cold weather. This year was not the case. It was just hot. I mean, I think it was like 90 degrees, which is, we talk about fatigue. I'm definitely tired
You're
of the summer.
cooking.
So, but
But
now
you
we're in like monsoon season. It's been torrential downpours for the last
over
4.
there, is it? It's cloudy here.
So that's nice. It feels like it's actually a shift in the seasons, um, but
It gets quite cold over there, no, in Dallas. Actually snows
I think it's
there.
a little cooler. I think it's um like a little bit, not tremendously more 10 degrees, but we get
Yeah.
a little bit more precipitation, I think, and that changes it. So it gets icier a lot. But
Okay.
I mean, it's Texas. It's still, I mean, it is still not cold today, but
Texas, one morning you have one weather, evening you have one weather, night you have a different weather. So
yeah.
it is what it is.
So
Okay.
today we're going to talk about addiction. So you have
Yes.
just,
Addiction, substance use disorder, all that. Such big, hefty topic, I guess. So why not? I
I don't know.
think it is something that we need to speak about it as scientists and as human beings too, because I feel like everyone knows a person who is going through this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's interesting talking about this election, how this has not been a major issue. And I
right,
think for the health scientist out there, you can't turn around without hearing about it in some level. I mean, in my
and
in my neuro class, we just talked about pain 2 weeks ago, and it's all about how opioids peripherally interact with the system. We don't even get to the central system
exactly. And
of it.
I think right now, not just addiction, right now is the time where everyone should come together as scientists because I'm sorry, I don't want NIH to be headed by RFK Jr. See? See? It's like, no, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to addiction, the first, so I just started research in this field, like almost just in this year. The things that I've learned so far is just, you don't even think about it. For example, the word addiction itself, there is there is a lot of push within the scientific community to rephrase it or call it as substance use disorder than addiction, because I also feel like addiction, you are putting the responsibility more on the people, like
Yeah.
somehow they are choosing to be addicted and choosing to be, like, you can be less addicted. You know what I mean? It's like we need to
Yeah,
take away blame from those people.
sure. Yeah,
And
it shifts it to more of a mental health
exactly.
issue versus a personal choice and a willpower issue.
And substance use disorder is a mental health disorder. And also the things, and it also comes when you talk about substance use disorder, what substances can be abused, right? Everything. I mean, people can be addicted to, again, addiction. I also have to correct the term, right? So people can, have this compulsive drug seeking behavior, I would say, to food,
Oh
from
man.
social media to Instagram, from then
Let's talk
hardcore drugs
about
like
let's talk about Halloween candy. Oh my gosh, it's literally I've had to ban it from my house because it's a constant. Can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? I'm like,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's. I mean, my kids are little. They just want to eat
Yeah.
peanut butter cups all day. But
Yeah.
it's sugar is a substance, right? It easily can be difficult to control,
Mm-hmm.
moderate, and especially if your prefrontal cortex is not totally formed, right? It is even more difficult to do so.
And also, people also think, or people also always associate intense euphoria with addiction. Like
Mm,
when we talk about addiction, substance use disorder, we only think about like people raving and, MDMA, crack, cocaine flowing and, everything going on. Not necessarily. I mean, yes, that is a part of it, but when we are looking at Instagram every 5, 6 seconds or every 5, 6 minutes, we are not getting an orgasmic high, but still, we are still addicted to that app. So, euphoria doesn't necessarily have to be linked to addiction. And when you demonize euphoria, I also feel like you are demonizing people who take those hard drugs, and it makes it difficult for scientists to think of them as humans, or we just don't even think of them as humans, because again, like, since they are choosing, or we think like they are choosing to go this hard root stuff rather than, again, getting quote unquote addicted to Instagram or social media or food is more palatable in social sense rather than getting addicted to crack, cocaine, or meth, right? But both of these have similar molecular and neural circuit, what is it, pathways. So
mm,
there is no point in demonizing one over the other or this over the other. I think we need to talk about this like a complete mental health disorder and what can we do ahead. And even when we talk about disorder, I've been looking at the website of National Institute of Drug Abuse and even the local government. So according to the data, in 2022 in US, 82.5 million people have substance use disorder with or without a serious mental health disorder. 82 million. And 51.7, see, I have notes here. 51.7 million people have substance use disorder, either substance use disorder or a serious mental illness. So mental illness can also be, like intricately linked to substance use disorder and vice versa too. Because when you take or when you abuse amphetamines, a class of drug, for a long term, that does induce systematic changes to the brain, and not good changes too. So both are intricately
mm.
linked. And when we talk about what is it? When we talk about the mortality rate, like in 2020 in Texas, of all the death in the Texas, the that's because of the meth abuse ranked higher. And in specifically in San Antonio, in Bexar County, in 2020, I mean, it's also because of the pandemic too. Like there is a 53% higher in meth overdose or stimulant overdose deaths.
Mm.
The rate is still continuing to climb up with, what is it, with 22 and 23. And that's one of the reason why I changed to do substance use, what is it, research too, because it was just so rampant, especially in the queer
Mm.
community in Texas. The use of what is it, methamphetamine, meth, ice, all that abuse is just so rampant. And
Why do you think? So you said since the pandemic.
mm,
I mean, I have my own ideas, but why do you think substance abuse has gone up so much?
life sucks, man.
That's always, but it's always sucked, right?
But
And
the thing is, first I would say is increased availability of it. It's a
okay,
cheap way out.
okay.
And I mean, personally speaking, when pandemic was happening, I was in a lab that was like, why aren't we producing nature cell science papers? You know, and I was completely in, what is it, full stress, absolute stress. So what did I have? I went on this rabbit hole of using that Delta 8 and those weed gummies and all that. And then it was the easy way out. You come home,
Yeah.
you take a gummy, you pop a gummy, and you just dose off and you do the rest. What is it? You repeat the cycle again and
Yeah.
again, right?
What? So you think it's because, and I'm just trying to paraphrase what you say so that I understand it. You think it's because people are needing this disconnect.
That
They're
is
they're
one factor.
stressed, they're pushed beyond what they need.
That is
And
one
I
factor.
definitely agree during the pandemic, we were dealing with stressors we were not accustomed to, right? And a lot of people resorted to a lot of different ways to manage that
Yes.
stress, whether they started a sourdough or they took up knitting
Yep.
or moved to, harder use drugs. A lot of people started getting more, outside more, blah blah blah. But
And again,
do you think there is a so
since we are only talking about, again, this hard drugs, Delta 8 gummies or whatever, we are also chronically using these social media apps too. The
okay,
funny thing is, with these hard drugs, at least we know how much we are taking consciously.
okay,
With that other apps, we don't know, and they make these algorithms intensely addictive.
yeah,
And at least these hard drugs, usually, at least from I know, adults are the one who's indulging it. Social media kids, teenage
oh
kids,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
it's
100%.
so unhealthy in so many different
Oh,
ways.
it's not even social media. It's just like stupid Roblox games that are pointless and dumb. So that's it. That was exactly my question was, do you think we've been doing all these other activities that have kind of elevated our tolerance to this this release, this disconnect, and
It
then
has
we need
become,
something a little bit more and more and more to continue to push that.
because also I feel like, since the society is quite very, it it isolates you, like many people don't have that community setting, don't have that support. So it's a
Yeah.
cheap way out. It's a cheap way out. And
Yeah.
since you have 10 million things that a person needs to take care of their life, they also won't have the luxury to be mindful of many other things too. So somebody be like, hey, a pack of crack or coke or even weed for that matter,
Yeah.
an easy way out,
Okay.
and I
So,
can't blame them for that.
so you're talking about um, drugs that give you a high, necessarily, right? What about this opioid epidemic,
Exactly.
where it is also kind of in parallel? This is not like a recreational use situation, but the devastation behind that is people are being prescribed these
Yes.
opioids and then not given a proper mechanism to manage it. And then once they're off of it, they go seeking more risky behaviors because they
Yes,
define that.
absolutely. And also there is also the inherited genetic factor too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So when we talk about all these, I was telling about all these numbers and all that. So now let's go and talk about, like, what are those. See, the thing is, with social media and everything, it is very hard to model it in science. How do you model social media addiction? How do you model food addiction? The paradigms are quite hard. So right now, the addiction research is more sequestered to looking at the effect of hard drugs like
Mm.
opioids, amphetamines, and all that. So opioids are the drugs, the class of drugs that, what is it, heroin, methadone, fentanyl, etc. Those are all opioids. And then you have with opioids, at least with fentanyl, they have this new antidote called, wait, naloxone.
Hmm.
Yeah, naloxone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The nasal
Yeah,
spray.
yeah. So what you do is, when you're taking, and if your drug is laced with fentanyl, you shake it and you spray it immediately. and
Mm.
that would, that will trigger mechanisms, and that would that's like immediate antidote to it, which is, this is amazing discovery, by the way, or
Mm.
amazing invention, by the way. But the only thing we need to know is, it's not like, it's not like Sleeping Beauty, waking from the sleep, right? So when you also have this nasal spray, you need to be prepared to know that it's an adrenaline rush happening. So people would be panicking and everything. So people need to be, what I mean is, people need to be taught how to use this properly.
What could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Okay, so this is naloxone.
Hmm.
So this is a nasal spray. And this is marketed, or this is right now in the market as an antidote to fentanyl, the thing that you get when you overdo OD, or when you have fentanyl exposure.
How do you know when to use it?
How do you know? Sorry?
Yeah, so if you've taken something and it's accidentally laced with fentanyl, which is what
We don't
everybody's
know, right? We
perpetuating, right, is the fear now. How do you know? Like what tells you to say I need to get this
this
naloxone nasal
this
spray?
that's a good question. I think it is, for example, like how you have PrEP for HIVs and how you have other medicines. Government needs to do more about it, I guess. I don't have the answer for that. But
Is this
what,
something that you would administer yourself?
yes, I mean, not you. I mean, you'll be ODing, but your friends,
Yeah, so
when you're going out,
yeah, okay. Where do you get it?
um, in the medical shops, usually in the CVS, or in bigger cities, what is it? In the bars or so, they should have it.
Okay.
But it's much more available
It's
now.
over the so it's over the counter?
I think so, but I need to confirm.
Okay.
This I got it from a bar.
Okay. They're
I
just
took, yeah,
giving them out
yes. Like a, what is it? If
like
you're doing
COVID swabs. They're like take a COVID swab and here's some.
pretty much. And I think we should do that, because this kind of, like, again, humanizes the people and takes away that. So again, so that is about a class of drugs called opioids. At least opioids, in there are many kinds of opioids, but for fentanyl, you still have this antidote. But there is another class of drug called amphetamines, which are stimulant type of drugs that has, so you can have prescription amphetamine like Adderall. And
Mhm.
then you have non-prescription, the abuse ones, that you have meth, ice, MDMA. MDMA is an amphetamine too. So these are the drugs, class of the drugs that are called stimulants. Like the name suggests, it will just stimulate you when you are just like, all doing all that. It is characterized by this intense euphoria, increased libido, usually used as party drugs for increased sexual appetite behavior, yada, yada, yada. But the problem with this stimulant type of drugs is there is no antidote. There is absolutely no antidote to this use. If you OD, you OD. And also, other than it doesn't, I'm blabbering, other than it is not having an antidote, it is highly addictive. It's highly addictive, and there is 92% relapse rate for these drugs. And within 3 years, only 5% of people continue to sobriety who choose to stay away from these drugs. So it teaches the people who take these drugs to have this intense seeking behavior, that, when people are playing with a drug, people are stupid. Everybody's stupid. We all think we are also immune to the nature. We are also immune to everything.
Mhm.
Since we are the one taking it, we kind of think that, oh, we can control it. We can control how much ever we are taking it. But no, these drugs, these chemically are just so potent and so strong, and the impact of this is, it's not just like it's not a hangover, right?
Mhm.
You feel crappy for a day and you just go back to your life. No, it impacts personally, it impacts families, it impacts communities. It's bad. And the problem so far is I personally feel like we point it towards people rather than policies or scientists or even doing something about it. You cannot just tell people, hey, you have problem, don't take it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That is RFK Jr.'s way of dealing with issues, not it shouldn't be ours, like mature scientists. And we are not even talking about the inherited effects of these. We are not even talking about how um see, I mean, this fentanyl, methadone, meth ice, it was not available in 50, 60 years ago on the streets. So right now, we don't even know how the future generations are going to be affected, how babies in the belly will be affected by all this. So, and there is such a significant lack of data because again, this is not again glamorous as studying Alzheimer's or other institutes. This is not something that you are going to come up with a magical cure to save the world. This is something called quite dirty, for the lack of any better word, quote unquote. And no, it something that affects 80 million people in US. It should be taken more seriously and it should be taken, you
Yeah.
know,
I think it is taken pretty seriously, especially from the policy side of things, especially
yeah,
from organizations,
yeah.
nonprofits, healthcare workers. That's why originally I was like, I'm surprised it hasn't been a bigger issue
I know.
in this election, but there's a lot
The
of
election is a shit show, man.
there's a lot of hot topic issues that are kind of taking taking the limelight. So
Yeah.
I'm curious then, as a biomedical research scientist, where do you feel your role is in helping all of these problems?
Okay. Good question. So, as a scientist, when we look into this behavior, we can. Okay, so the question is how to make this better, right? And we can make it better in two, three different ways. We can target the drug-seeking behavior. Like we can study after you take these drugs, what causes, after you take this drug for an acute or chronic amount of time, what triggers the brain to compulsively seek this drug. So you can have approaches to target that seeking behavior, first thing. Second thing, you can also target. So, for example, when you take this drug, it's many of these drugs has so much neurotoxicity. Astrotoxicity, the neurotoxicity is just peaking. So, what is it? Yes, we need to target the behavior, but we should also be preserving brain homeostasis too, right? We should also make sure that everything is working like how it's supposed to be working at the baseline. That is a field that people should look at. And again, like I was telling you, organoid comes into the field because that is a fantastic, I think, tool to look how these affects the developing,
Mhm.
tissues, organs, brain even. And
See, so you're thinking it's like having a better knowing more about how these substances change your brain
I think so.
to drive this behavior, to drive
Yes. I also think,
substance seeking behavior
yes, I
using these
also
drugs.
think to target all this, yes, we need to have screening of small molecules and all, yada,
Mhm.
yada, yada. But we also be looking at repurposing the current medications in the market, to can we kind of like hack some compounds that's already available in the market to test in
Yeah,
all these things, that will cut short the what is it, the bench to people
yeah,
drastically. So there are so many things that we can do. The problem is, of course, funding. And the
yeah.
problem is, of course, knowing the importance of this. And also, we are only talking about this hard drugs, right? Like opioids, amphetamines, etc. Like when we talk about food, or social media, how do you even model that in systems, you know?
Mhm.
And I think this is where we can better use AI somehow. I don't know how, but somehow. And then also comes the use of animal ethics.
Are there, so this is kind of random. Are there drugs that are not addictive? Because I've always heard that like marijuana, THC is not an addictive drug. That's what it was always for the early 2000s. That's what was always kind of touted is
I,
it is
I,
not addictive in the sense that your body doesn't become physically dependent on it.
I think, see, science changes
Yeah, but I
every
think in the
decade.
last 10 years, when states started legalizing it and more people became interested in understanding it, and like THC and cannabinoids became more prominent in the biomedical research areas, I've heard a lot different. I've heard a lot
Okay,
of different things.
so
So I
disclaimer.
was just curious overall, like, are there drugs that are not addictive in the sense of a physiological
You
definition?
know, I think if you cross a limit, anything can be addictive. You know,
Sure.
and okay, so with CBD, THC, all that disclaimer, I don't work in it.
Mhm.
I can't, I don't know factually, but with that said, science is always evolving, right?
Yeah.
And when we had previous data about THC or CBD not being addictive, I don't think people were using that this much.
I think so. I agree. That's what I'm saying.
No.
And I think it was always, so I remember in college, when I took a neuropharm class, it was like THC is not, can't overdose on it and it's not addictive. And I always thought, oh, that's interesting. I had zero experience with it at that point. I grew up in the 80s where we had DARE and the cops told us to say no to drugs or else we're going to go, right? And then I grow up and looking back, I'm like, I think my professor was just a hippie pushing marijuana. But now
I
I'm like, I don't know if that's true. First of all, to your point, we have more use of it today than we have
yes,
ever.
I only this
Second
one
of point,
thing.
if you ask my parents and their generation about the, marijuana, weed products available, they're different products.
Yeah.
We are
Oh,
working with a
absolutely.
much
Absolutely.
different level of THC, not just
Yeah.
a frequency of use. And so that itself, yeah, it's like if you drink Miller Lite all day long and then somebody throws you Everclear, of course you're going to feel those effects totally different. Same thing with, I think, the marijuana world is that.
I think it's like when you go to when I went to dispensaries in Colorado, you get like more than 30% THC content. I'm like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, with marijuana and THC, I don't know if you get addicted or not. I think it is still out there, but what is undeniable that the behavior affects, of course, it's going to slow you down. If you take consistently, it's going to have a behavior outcome that is undeniable.
Mhm.
And and of course, it gives you that lightness, it's a stress reliever. I would say right now treat it like alcohol. You know what I mean? And it's funny because yesterday I saw Kamala Harris's campaign proclaiming that they will legalize weed and everything. I mean, sure, great. But I also think socially, marijuana is slowly replacing alcohol.
Yeah, I think
And
there's a novelty to it.
yeah,
I
and
think a lot of people are trying it because now it's available and new and
I think here, since, I mean, or till we get some solid data that we can pinpoint, it's undeniable that weed is, or marijuana and its derivative products, vape, all that is going to be everywhere, or it is already everywhere. I would say the key is moderation.
yeah.
Like
I
alcohol is legal, you don't take it every day, every time. No?
I would say one of the constant tenets that I hear from marijuana enthusiasts is I guess I'll say that
I am a marijuana enthusiast for that matter.
is you don't see people overdosing on marijuana, right? Which I think is definitely a point, right? Um,
See,
alcohol, you could not claim that. People definitely have alcohol
see,
intoxication, amphetamines, opioids, definitely. My understanding, and maybe this is where you can correct me, is that the lethality in that comes from oftentimes you've built up your tolerance, you try to step away from it, right? You go back to that same level, and then it is now your body is no longer able to tolerate it at that level. And that's when it becomes a lethal dose.
and also another thing, I think many other drugs affect the region of the brain that takes care of breathing, heartbeat, and everything,
Yep,
right? I don't think marijuana does it. That's why we don't have that particular
yep,
effect. Like we don't
that's true.
choke on
Yeah,
weed,
yeah, that's
right?
true.
But that doesn't mean that it is not affecting other part of the brain that involves what is it that involves reinforcing that behavior,
Yeah.
seeking behavior, like just because you don't have the muscular outcomes of ODing or all that doesn't mean that it is not exerting any effects on the brain. That is a complete fallacy. So yeah.
So maybe what we can do now is so in terms of addiction, bringing
Yeah.
it back, just regardless of the substance, are there consistent definitions of how the brain changes in response to addiction?
Okay, so from what I know, what I've read, at least with amphetamines, two regions are mostly affected, not completely, mostly affected, or two regions I'm looking at, a ventral tegmental area and
Mhm.
nucleus accumbens. They are the part of the dopaminergic system. So the dopamine neurons from VTA, ventral tegmental area, when we take all these, at least amphetamines and the stimulant drugs, these cells, one of their they go all the way, they send the signals to the nucleus accumbens, and they keep on giving dopamine to here.
Mhm.
That affects the cells in nucleus accumbens in this region and whatever is they are doing. So usually these cells are, the affected cells are called medial spiny neurons in striatum, and they are affected to so many different regions of the brain. So basically all those regions are affected. And when you keep on taking these drugs, this circuit becomes more and more and more affected. So again, like I was telling you, moderation is the key anyway, because if you keep on taking it, you keep on increasing the toxicity or keep on playing with these neural circuits, and that is not good. Again, it's like, see, I'm talking all this as if
Mhm.
I have an HSL or science paper and all this. It's like the research is just so, like, compared to what happens in hippocampus and dentate gyrus, the addiction research is is so at its benign stage. Like, for example, there were only like 70 something papers in astrocytes and addiction ever published in that I could find in PubMed. And astrocytes make 90% of the cells in the brain, and there is just so much of void in it. That is what makes it interesting, necessary, and much needed with what's happening in terms of substance use, addiction, yada yada yada.
What do
So
you think the reason is? I mean, that's surprising to me, as a neurobiologist. I've heard about addiction. I've taken classes on neuroscience related topics that pretty much always cover aspects of addiction. Um, a lot of it is, as you've kind of nicely described, is social effects of it, you know, psychological effects of it, maybe economic effects of it, but the neurobiology of it, I've always thought was pretty well understood. I don't know the field very much. I'm further away from,
I don't think anybody within the field knows about it very well, to
but there's,
be
but
honest
I
with
mean, there's lots of people that study addiction, right? Study cocaine, study amphetamines, um, and they run rats and mazes and, you know,
you. But so many of these science studies personally are so sloppy, Zane. They are just,
mm,
because since it doesn't have many. Yeah, there are papers, but many papers, I feel like they are papers out there just for the sake of it. Nobody is seriously looking at antidotes for this. Nobody is serious about it. That's what makes me sad, because this is such a painful thing. Like, people need to take it seriously. Scientists need to
So,
take it seriously.
you think the num or you think a big push from a basic science research perspective
Absolutely.
is to find antidotes. So you first meant so I think it's great. You mentioned mechanisms for how these drugs affect the brain and change the brain, right? This VTA to nucleus accumbens pathway, very well established in dopamine reward.
Yes.
Um, what we don't further understand, I mean, I guess you could even say as drugs evolve
Yeah.
on the street, right,
Yes.
from big pharma, is we need we need counteractants to it.
Yes, absolutely.
We
That's
need
what
to
I think.
know
That's what I
not
strongly agree.
just the mechanism of action, but how to interfere with that so that we can
Absolutely. Yes.
override human nature, which is
Yes.
take advantage
That
of
is, that
substances.
is, I would say that is the first step. And second step is to actually rehabilitation of the brain itself. Because
Oh yeah,
see,
yeah.
all these drugs have so much, it's like exploding a nuclear bomb in the brain, when these, because you can see the effect in real life, right? So yeah, you also need to have that kind of research too. But the problem with this is, again, like I was telling you, pushing the responsibility towards the people.
Mm.
Like, what do
The
you
addict,
take? Yeah, yeah.
pushing it
What
to
do
the
you take?
addict, to
Mhm.
taking it directly to those terms. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. So yeah, and all, another problem with research is the ethics of it. Because when we talk about studying these hard drugs, amphetamines and all that, after, you can only get certain amount of data from in vitro work.
Yeah.
And then mostly it's in vivo, that involves primate research, rodent research, and all that, which, these animals, if you want to study the effect of these drugs, you need to systematically administer them. So what are the ethics of that? That is such a fuzzy gray area.
Hmm.
And if you talk to someone about it, it can, I understand why it is problematic. So there need to be, what is it? There need to be, um, people need to know what is the importance of this animal research. What is the importance of animal research in this particular context? There are so many things that need to be done here. But yeah, I think the first step is to get the definitions right and and see what we can do about it, I guess, in terms of research and funding too.
Yeah.
And, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking. Another thing is that we only talk about addiction or substance use disorder, and we assume that these people have no other thing. They are like, so these healthy individuals going and administering these drugs. Maybe these people have Alzheimer's and taking these drugs. People might have epilepsy and taking these drugs. People might have myriad of
Yeah.
neurological disorders and taking these drugs. And I can't generalize, the effect would be same in all these conditions.
Yeah.
So many things to be done. Many people need to do it. Let's see how the research goes.
Yep. Okay, I think that's a really solid spot to wrap up.
Yeah.
Do you have any concluding thoughts on where you want to see the field move, or what? So you're, just to to make everybody aware, you're just kind of jumping into this field.
Yes, I
Uh,
am.
you are excitedly learning a lot about it.
I am working on.
What do you want to talk a little bit about what you're specifically trying to do to contribute to these problems?
I am working. I am studying how astrocytes modulate the drug-seeking behavior.
Hmm.
So I knock out or I silence some genes, either astrocytes everywhere or astrocytes specifically in NAC or nucleus accumbens or ventral tegmental region alone. And I look at how that affects the drug-seeking behavior. Why? Because astrocytes make up the most of the cells in the brain, and they are also very much closely associated with blood vessels, blood-brain barrier,
Mm.
taking care of the niche of the whole neural system as itself. So that is my goal, to look into that and see what are the changes astrocyte brings forward and can we like tweak within the system to, for example, to make the extracellular matrix more stronger, much more healthier, or making it, astrocytes do exert power on, power is a whatever word, but power on behavior too. So can we study that? Can we somehow block the, or dampen or lessen the drug-seeking behavior? So that's what I'm studying. And I
So,
also want to look at the organoids too, but that's way out there.
so when you say the astrocytes are involved with like nucleus accumbens
Mhm.
in the ventral tegmental area, are they controlling the neuronal functions?
So
Or,
studies show that when dopamine is released from VTA, the calcium fluctuations in nucleus accumbens, in astrocyte calcium fluctuations are just it goes way up. And also, um, amphetamine, just the administer of amphetamine itself can also increase the calcium signaling. And there are so many studies that showing that if you knock out the dopamine receptors from astrocytes, either in these regions, that affects the drug-induced locomotion. For example, like if you specifically delete dopamine receptor of astrocytes from, I think, nucleus accumbens or VTA. Don't know which
so
region.
astrocytes have dopamine receptors?
Yes.
What is so that causes calcium?
Yes.
Oh, what does the
Yeah.
calcium in the astrocytes do?
I don't know. See, those are the questions that I.
That so traditionally that would like stimulate the dumping of gliotransmitters.
Mhm.
Like this could be glutamate, this could be
Yeah,
adenosine,
yeah.
um,
So many things. It's
ATP. That's a lot. Oh, that's I
exactly.
didn't know
It's
that. I didn't even know that.
it's in the field is in such infancy stage. People are looking more into the serial dilution of the drugs, like at which concentration do we get, can we dampen the effects? Nobody's looking at cell biology and circuitry itself, like nobody's using optogenetic tools, chemogenetic tools, nothing. So yeah, I think only if we understand the basic science of it, we can come up with a solid target.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's wrap that up. I think that's great. Thank you, Gopu.
Thank you, Zane. Thank you for listening, people.
Yeah.